Radhe Radhe. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. May this be an offering to Sri Radha Krishna. And as we wait for our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space as being a welcoming, all-inclusive one, open to everyone regardless of background, identity, orientation, ethnicity. I hope that everyone feels comfortable to be here, regardless of their background, anything which may be dividing us on the surface. It is my intention for us to come together as fellow students of life, here to uplift each other, relate in one another's experiences, and share positive sentiments. So those are my intentions for this space. Also, I would love for everyone to just be their self. I hope that you feel comfortable to be who you truly are. Now, thank you, Kent and Lisa, for blessing us with a heart me very early on. Thank you for that. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, Brandon. It's very kind of you. I trust that those who are joining, no matter what may be going through your mind, your body, your emotional space, no matter what set of circumstances may be prevailing in your life at this time, I trust that you are managing as best as you know how. And that's enough. It always is to get through this moment, which is the only moment we ever have to get through. G to infinity, you share that you're never on time. Well, you are today. And hello, dear Natalia. Picnics, you're wondering if I have any words for someone who has lost their mum this week. Death is not the process of losing anybody, but merely a process of reallocating resources. For example, your mother has her address changed. Instead of delivering all your love to this address that went by a certain name, had a certain skin color, hair color, style of clothing, etc., their physical address has merely changed from this body unto the hearts of their loved ones like you. I always say that there's two miracles of birth that happen between a mother and their child. The first miracle, of course, is being born from the womb of your mother. But the second miracle occurs not at the beginning of your life, but at the end of hers, where she becomes born into your heart. And it's this very same mother, not merely just a secondary impression. Her address has merely changed. She has moved in to your heart. So although we temporarily lack a place to direct our love, all of the love that she has given us remains with us in our heart. If you remember that, then you can never be lost from your mom. Thank you, Ragnhildar, for your community fast you sent a moment ago. Jai Sitaram. You're very welcome, Picnics. And you're allowed to feel sad. It should go without saying that in the process of grief, sadness, crying, laughter, all the emotions are your best friends. Let them all come and celebrate the life of your mother. And in any way I can be there for you, let me know. Risi, thank you for your 11 finger hearts that you sent. Here's a couple for you. Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hola, Marlene. Brandon, you share that I have the same hat as Van Gogh from the movie Eternity's Gates. That's very interesting. It's my mother's. Maybe my mother is a bit of an actress. I don't know. But that's fine. Thank you, dear Picnics, for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. Great day, Phoenix Rising. Hello, Alicia. Heart me. Radhe Radhe. Great day, Phoenix Rising. Hello, Alicia. It has disconnected me. Quel dommage. I think I cut out there for a moment, everyone. But if I have returned, do let me know. I hope that is not still glitching on your part. It's back. Good to hear. Okay. So I have a question of the day for you all. If you are interested in inquiring with me, upon what realization does the world meld into one? It's a bit of a riddle today, I guess, but unlike a riddle, there is not necessarily a correct answer. Nor is there inherently a wrong answer. So please feel free to interpret this question however makes sense to you. And thank you. Get radianized for your community fest. Hari Om Tat Sat. Can I explain the question? Sure. Explaining the question is probably just as difficult as answering it. Before us, we see a diversity of life. We see a distinction between you and I, between all the plants and animals, between ourselves and nature, and our nature and the universe. But this distinction is created only in the minds of us humans. Upon what knowingness, upon what piece of wisdom, upon what experience does this world of forms merge, meld, conform to just one unified, continuous existence? What does it take? Alright, I'm loving these answers that are coming in already. Catalina, you share that we are a part of nature and the universe. I like that. It's not that we are necessarily distinct individuals, but interconnected pieces of the same puzzle. Isn't it so? And Theo, you share, if you understand correctly, the fact that we all share the same experiences. I love that. I love that indeed. Yes. Thank you, Get Radianized, for another community fest. And Viri, thank you for your heart me. Namaskar. Hello, hey tonight. And all the cats in the chat. Josan, do you share that being positive truly changes your world? I agree with this. What a big difference we can make from the inside out. Scott, you share death. But death of what? It's a good question. Hello, Chloe. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Miguel, you share the world melds into one. Once we realize everything is made up of the same particles, arising from the same quantum fields. Yes, this is a difficult question indeed. I'm very grateful for all of your beautiful resolutions to it. Magdalene, you share birth. I like that. But on the same line as Scott's answer, indeed, but a birth of what? Oh, I'm happy you like my voice, Jane. We have been reading stories together, and we will just about read from a book that we have been reading together. And all of the readings are uploaded on my YouTube channel too, if you ever want to listen to them. The God particle, shares Marlon. Well, the Higgs boson, also known as the God particle, does indeed exist everywhere in the Higgs field, mostly in a latent state. But we see its effects everywhere. That reminds me of something. Simple answer, but a beautiful one, and I totally agree with it. Ragnhildar. With love! Yes. Nature, shares Marlon. What about nature? Miguel, you share, we are all made of stardust. You are very right, my friend. Oh, this world of physical matter was once inside the heart of a dying star. Much of it was fused in the moments of death as well. Specifically, all of the elements after iron on the periodic table. I like that too, Mr. Astrolabe. Every particle is the God particle. Viri, you share, you'd say God realization, Krishna, consciousness, whatever you call it. It's beautiful and a very precise answer to the question of the day. Hello, Michelle. Duffy, you ask an age-old question. What happens upon death? I imagine that all of our senses, much like the dream state, are redirected away from the physical world, and everything dissolves back into consciousness. From that very consciousness, this world of forms originated, unto which it shall return. So I ask of thee the complementary question, from where does birth happen? Into thee death occurs. Now thank you B525 for your rose. Hare Krishna. And thank you, Sasha, for your rose too. A little bit of an early live today indeed. Stimulus check. And I love that, Isabella. Water, air, a showcase of elements we all need to exist. Up there with fire. Up there with earth and the quintessence. Space. Alright. Thank you everyone for exploring this question of the day with me. That was fun. I ate a yam yesterday, Kevin. I ate a yam sushi, yam and avocado sushi. And Marlon, you share, or as Bashar said, spirit wakes up from its dream, if you remember correctly. I think you are remembering correctly, as that definitely sounds very correct. Ooh. Is this some Sanskrit from Eden? Pratitya samutapada. Sounds nice. I don't know what it means. You'll have to tell me. Ray, you ask, do I believe in reincarnation? To me, it is a natural assumption. And by natural, I mean it arises when we drop a lot of other preconceptions. For instance, we really don't have to assume that a kind of nothingness that remains after death is in any way distinct from the nothingness that was prior to birth. The modern scientific consensus is a kind of annihilationism, that after death there is nothingness. And that seems to preclude the possibility of reincarnation, because reincarnation is definitely something and not nothing. However, if the nothingness before birth was somehow different from the nothingness after death, then at least one of them must not be nothing, because you can only compare something. If there is a difference, then something must be making that difference. So, for true annihilationism to be a reality, that also implies that it's a full cycle. That we come from nothing and then return to that very same nothing which led to our birth. So, it's a very natural assumption that the nothingness before birth is the same as the nothingness after. I feel like making some distinction between the state before and after birth and death would be arbitrary. That is how I would explain it. Thank you, dear Grace, for gracing us with a rose and tiny Diane. Yippee! And thank you, Ash, for your rose. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Alright, I love to start my lives with the question of the day, and after some small talk, yes, that constitutes small talk for this live, I like to read from our book that we've been reading. This is a very dense book, full of information, so I'll just read a few paragraphs and then we can go on discussing whatever we wish to discuss. We are reading The Hidden Power in Humans, all about chakras and Kundalini. It was written by Paramatma Swami Maheshwarananda, who's a handsome chap, a distinguished yogi, isn't he? Very at peace he is. Allow me to put the cover up for those who may join while we're reading. Yeah. Let's see where we left off. That's right. We left off discussing how there were 4 types of beings that arose from nature, from Prakriti. There were the Jarayuja, those who were born in the womb, such as humans and animals. Andaja, those who are born in an egg that is hatched, like birds and reptiles, fish, etc. Svedaja, those who are born through division, such as lower forms of life, bacteria, etc. And Udbhija, through seed, vegetation. These are the kinds of life forms in the yogic philosophy. However, of these forms of life, the human being is unique because it has the most kalas, the most abilities, unique niches that it fills. And it's unique also in a couple other ways, which is that humans are unique in that they are able to gain different abilities as they live through a single life. And they're also blessed with a supernatural power called the buddhi, which is difficult to adequately translate into English, but it comes from this root Sanskrit verb buddh, which means to awaken, to understand. It's where we get terms like the Buddha, which is the awakened one, but also the buddhi, the discriminating faculty in our mind, kind of like the intellect, which is able to discern between unreality and reality. A human being can use the faculty of the buddhi to awaken consciousness, called bodhicitta, awakening consciousness. Where did we leave off? We'll start from Yes, only humans are capable of understanding what is God, what truly is the source of this existence, and experience it directly through spiritual practices. The evolution of consciousness attains fulfillment in the divine state of samadhi, this state in which the knower, knowledge, and the object of knowledge all merge into one. And this supreme knowledge is transmitted to us through two spiritual tattvas, elements, called the Anupada tattva, also known as the Guru tattva, and the Adi tattva, also known as the Self tattva. Self-realized yoga masters are known as Brahmanishta Shrotriya, the knowers of Brahman, the knowers of the ultimate reality, and Tattva Darshi, the knowers of the tattvas, the elements. Their knowledge and experiences are unlimited. They transcend time, space, and intellect. One who possesses self-knowledge and knowledge of the tattvas has acquired the highest knowledge realizable by a human. With this, one becomes the knower of God, a Brahma Jnani, and the self merges into the divine consciousness and becomes one with God. This is the ultimate goal of yoga. In fact, this is what the Sanskrit word yoga means: union with the divine consciousness. Sri Mahaprabhu Ji wrote in one bhajan, one devotional song, "Infinite is the experience of the Tattva Darshi Gurudev. The blessed ones who have recognized this cross the ocean of ignorance. I had searched everywhere, including heaven and hell, and in all three worlds I found no one comparable to the Satguru. The struggle of the yogi to become free of passion, anger, attachment, greed, and ego is more difficult than the battle waged on the battlefield." Given that this was likely translated from Sanskrit, I lack the melody or rhythm, but it's beautiful. That's where we left off. All right. Let's talk about the distinction between the Jivatma, the Atma, and the Paramatma, between the soul, the self, and God. Literally, the individual soul, the soul, and the higher soul, Jivatma, Atma, Paramatma. In yoga, we differentiate between these three. Jivatma is the individual, and Atma and Paramatma are the universal. Paramatma is the supreme principle, whatever we call it: God, supreme self, divine self, love, truth, or reality. Atma may be described as God's ray of light, which exists as the light of life in every living being. It is part of Paramatma and is therefore identical in nature with it, just as the seed of a tree contains all the qualities of the tree. The Atma also carries the qualities of the Supreme Self. That is to say, our beingness, part and parcel of the ultimate being, contains all the same qualities of that source, all those infinite qualities that we associate, like omniscience, omnipresence, omnibenevolence, omnipotence. We just have yet to grow and nurture the seed. Jivatma, the individual soul, is the reflection of the Atma within an individual, a wave, so to speak, that emerges from the ocean of existence and wanders from embodiment to embodiment, and after a long process of development and experience, again returns to the unity of the Atma. The soul that has manifested itself in a form, however, does not identify with its divine essence, but rather with its attributes, the physical body, the mind, the thoughts, etc. This is where most of existence takes place. The aim of the path of yoga is to dispel this illusion this illusion that we are the body, the mind, and that our physical characteristics, or even mental ones, define us. What is the reason that the individual soul separates from God, from Source? The cause lies in the principle of ahankara, the ego, and this is a beautiful Sanskrit word. Ahankara literally means the I maker. Aham means I. Kara means maker. Ahankara, the maker of the I, the one that produces the sense of me, myself, and mine. Here, ego means the will to exist. It is the aspiration for manifestation and self-expression in the sense of I want to exist. The difference in form, the ahankara is the seed from which the variety within nature comes into existence. The difference in form is relevant only to the external manifestations and to the expression of consciousness and intellect. The essence, however, is the same within all. Atma. Just as the water in clouds only appears to be different to the water in the ocean, in the same way, the individual only appears to be different to God. In reality, there is no division. It only exists externally, in the form and in the qualities. The individual follows the path set down by cosmic law, which has the same validity for all life forms. The aim and purpose of life is in the ongoing development and enlightenment of the consciousness, which achieves its ultimate expression in the conscious union of the individual soul, Jivatma, with the divine self, Atma. The opening of the individual consciousness of the Jivatma to the all-conscious existence of the Atma is called enlightenment, or realization. Enlightenment means that there is no longer any corner of consciousness remaining in the darkness. So I thank you, my dear viewers, for listening to this wonderful exposition from the hidden power in humans. Let's pause with that fruitful definition of enlightenment, where no part of consciousness remains in the dark. Thank you for listening. And thank you, dear Ushabai, for sending this wonderful book from your guru for us to read. It has been a wonderful exploration of this, I was going to say ancient, but ancient doesn't even cut something that's 10, 12,000 years old or more. This prehistoric practice of achieving union with the source of the universe. Namaskaram. Hello, Jazzman. Hello, dear Kelsey. Now, some of you sent some gifts while I read, and I thank you for that. I thank you for your patience as I now have a moment to reflect my gratitude. Satire. You sent the funny number 69 worth of roses. Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya. And dear Marcy, thank you for your heart me and trio of roses. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And Isabella, thank you for your pair of finger hearts. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Alan, for your rose too. Marcy, I saw you asked a relevant question. What's the difference between chakra and chi? The difference between a chakra and chi is the same difference between a roundabout and a car. A car is what drives on the roundabout and then goes off in various branches called roads. In this analogy, a road is called a nadi. So chakra, nadi, chi, or prana. Prana is what moves along the roads, the nadis. The nadis converge upon roundabouts called chakras. They are the nodes of the energetic system in a human body. You may notice this yourself, that you might have a ripple of sensation go down your spine or up your spine or down your arms. And you'll notice that there's a bit of a bump in the flow of your own awareness. If you're very still with your mind, you feel the flow of sensation throughout your body. It concentrates and also diverges from specific points. Paying attention to these points, those are called the chakras, or the wheels, from which the prana, the flow of awareness within your body takes turns. Like in the heart, of course, a lot of our awareness is centered there. In our throat too, at the base of our spine. Those are just a couple to name a few, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens of these turning points within the body, within each joint, within the face, within the ears. We happen to enumerate 5 or 7 or 8 main ones, but every cell in your body is like a chakra. Every lymphatic node, every branch of an artery or vein, or a neuron, every atom, nay, every particle in existence is its own chakra, a place where energy is concentrated. We can even create them too, but that's another story. I'm happy you like the reading, Tracy. It's a very wonderful book, and I'm grateful to have it. Yeah, the sun today, Eden, is still there. It's just behind a cloud. It's funny, we say it's either a sunny day or a cloudy day. But it's always a sunny day. That's what makes a day. Day means the sun's up. Sometimes there is a cloud in between the sun and the earth. But that doesn't mean the sun isn't there. It's the same light illuminating us today. In the same way, being alive means that you have happiness. You cannot be alive without happiness. But sometimes different emotions go in between happiness and our conscious witnessing. So it feels as though it's a cloudy day on the soul, that it may rain. But the very same light that shines when you're happy is the same light illuminating all other expressions of life. Thank you, Peter Schaefer, for your pair of roses. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Salutations to Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. And Steffi, thank you for your heart me. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Salutations to Mother Durga, the fierce quality of a mother. And thank you, Josand, for your hat and mustache. Om Kring Kalekaye Namaha. Salutations to Kali, to time, to darkness. Sky Guardian, you share, in the last 30 minutes you contemplated going for a walk or watching the live, or walking and watching, but did nothing. That reminds me of the story of the starving, dehydrated donkey. You ever heard that story? It's a funny story. So there was this donkey, right? And this donkey was just as starving as he was dehydrated. And finally someone noticed this and brought before the donkey some food and some water. The donkey was thinking about his stomach. Oh, so hungry. Looking at the food, thinking about how thirsty he is, looking at the water, back to how hungry he is, looking at the food, back to how thirsty he is, thinking about the water. You know, he's holding his breath. What do I decide? Food or water? First, water, food, food, water. And because he forgot to breathe, he ends up dying. Yeah, he suffocates. That's the end of the story. It's not a happy ending. But such is the case in life. Sometimes we are presented with two good options, but our own indecisiveness is the wrong option. We're so worried about making the right decision that not making the decision is the wrong action. It's you're the donkey. Shares Rhiannon, yes. We all are, in many ways. In this life, we become so conscious of doing the right thing that we forget to do anything at all. That we become immobilized, paralyzed by our own indecisiveness. But to alleviate this struggle, we just remember the donkey. That you know what? Drink the water or eat the food. You can always go back and do the other later if you need to do both. It is not what decision we make right. It is just leading a highly active life where we become engaged in the present moment. We can make all our decisions right, and we can always admit that we could have made a different decision, and that's okay. Sky Guardian, you share, well, food is made of water, so you can do both just by eating. Unless it's salty food, then you'll be dehydrated. That's actually what the donkey was thinking at the time. Yeah. That's the thought process of the donkey. Well, on one hand, if I do this, on the other hand, if I do that, then they kick the bucket. No, thank you, Jacqueline, for your finger heart. Here's one for you, too. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hello, Eileen. Thank you for sending your love. I receive it. Thank you for sharing it with everyone else, too. The donkey had analysis paralysis, exactly. Analysis is useful. We would not have any of the scientific deductions we have today without our reasoning. Too much analysis and we drive ourselves crazy, though, because there's too much of life, then there is time to analyze it all. We certainly get caught up in the past because we become overwhelmed with the amount of experiences we've had compared to the amount of experiences that we can rationalize. At some point we have to accept that we cannot rationalize all of our feelings, all of our experiences. Sometimes we just have to let them go without understanding why intellectually. We can just accept that there is a reason why. And that's good enough. Thank you, Eileen, for your pair of tiny dinies. Yippee! Hi, Bridgen. You shared that you just cried for the Philippines and then you calmed down. I think it's beautiful that you have so much empathy for the suffering that is going around in various crises around the world, such as the Philippines. I'm also glad that you were able to calm down too. That's the least we can do for the world, is we can have a moment where we share some of the suffering. And then when we find our equilibrium again, we know not to get overwhelmed by it. It is important to recenter. It's easy to get overwhelmed by all of the suffering around the world. If we want to contribute to the peace and welfare, it's important to first be aware of the suffering, but also cultivate peace within, so that we have some peace that we can share with others, share around the world. And it's a beautiful thing when that peace merges with your awareness of the suffering, where you can be peaceful even while you are cognizing, thinking about all of the suffering around the world. Hello, Lacey. Welcome. And thank you for your quintet of roses I just saw. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Salutations to the prosperous mother. And thank you, Dex, for your rose too. Hare Krishna. Hi, Don Suela. Hello. I'm happy you enjoyed the interview with Yogi. I loved that. And thank you, Vinay, for setting that up for us. I was very honored to have such a wonderful bonus after the finale of reading In Love at Ease, talking with the author himself. A wonderfully sacred moment. It was a challenging day for me yesterday. But it was so worth it because I got to do everything I wanted to do. That's right, Viri. I spoke to him and you all can hear the interview as I have already uploaded it to my YouTube channel, Yamsox Lives. The first link in the link tree in my bio at the moment, and on various other alternative platforms there. You can listen to some extra questions that I've passed on from you to the author that I was collecting as we read. I wasn't able to get through all of the questions that you all had sent to Yogi, but I tried to do as much as possible within the time frame allotted. And we even got him to sing at the end. That was lovely. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your disco love. Namaste, Dennis. I'm having a wonderful day indeed. Thank you. Hello, Kairan. You share that you're Karan. Well, hello, Karan. Josan, you share that you felt depressed that your new song didn't get much support, and you remembered my teachings. Well, they're not mine, but thank you. These are things that I have been taught through my own experience, often from the experiences of loved ones in my life, and wonderful people like you who share your experiences with me. And I am sorry that your song was not heard by as many as you wished it to. It's hard because you know deep down that you deserve to be seen, because beauty makes the world go round, and beautiful things so important to experience. And the beauty of your creativity is something that would definitely uplift others. I would love to check it out myself, but you are right, it's not the outcome that should drive our actions. It's well, the antonym of outcome is income. But it's funny because now we use the word income as a kind of outcome. It's what goes in to the work. What drove this to be created from within you? All of the experiences you've had led to being expressed in this form. That's the real beauty of it. Sky Guardian, you share that it's unfortunate that he doesn't sing these days, as hearing that made you sad. Oh, well, he's very busy with his PhD dissertation. I don't blame him. I think anyone who's in the middle of a PhD will tell you that they don't have time to do many of the things they love, other than working towards their passion in the form of a degree. And that's alright. And thank you, Limestone City Hydroponics, for your rose. And hello, Myla. You're wondering, what does yam mean? Oh, well, if you're wondering how I got this name, it's 3/4 of my given name, Liam, Lyam. When I stop taking L's, I just go by Yam. But the meaning of the name Liam comes from my father and my mother. My father's middle name is William. His father's first name was William. Liam, of course, is short for William. William is a very Irish name. And I am mostly Irish in my genealogy. And the Y is because on my mother's side there's lots of L's and Y's. So a Y is to honor my mother. So it's a combination of both my mother and my father. We got many fathers who are named William, it seems. 3 in a row: Hybrid Jen, Rhiannon, and Sophia. You all share that your dad was William. That's amazing. Oh, I think there's a helicopter overhead. I hope the beat of its turbine is not too loud for you all. Sky Guardian, you share, you thought it was Bill for William. William is amazing in that there's so many nicknames that come from it. Will, Willie, Bill, Billy, and of course Liam. And now Yam. Thank you, Mila, for your heart me and a whale diving. That's beautiful. I love that. Hariom Tatsat. Such a cool gift. I appreciate your generosity. That dude, you shared that my audio is maxing out a bit. Oh, thank you. Here, let me turn down the gain. That should be better, I think. I appreciate that. And thank you, John F, for your heart me. Hariom Tatsat. Godspeed. You're wondering, what is Sangha? Sangha is an ancient Sanskrit word which has many layers to its meaning. A literal translation would be association. But spiritually, association is our fundamental free will of consciousness. Even if this whole world unveiling before us was entirely out of our will, out of our control, we still have the freedom to associate with different parts and different combinations. You can choose to associate with different people, different ideas, different belief systems. It's the power of identification, of bringing your awareness somewhere or away from somewhere else. That's Sangha, the power of association. In a more practical context, it can also literally refer to a bunch of associates, people who associate with each other. The Buddhists use it as one of the three refuges. Refuges. The Dharma, the Buddha, and the Sangha. The teacher, the teaching, the teacher, and the fellow students. But in a more non-denominational context, it just refers to any gathering or assembly in which we associate with each other. We bring our minds and hearts together to relate in each other's experiences and share our own for the purpose of uplifting, for the purpose of sharing positive sentiments. Such is why I've named this a Sangha. Marlon, you share that the meaning of the name Liam is a strong-willed warrior and a protector. That's very interesting. I wonder if we follow the etymology, if the L sound has any particular meaning. In modern languages, it's more a combination of sounds that are units of meaning. But in ancient times, even a single phoneme, a single phonetical element of a word contributed to its meaning. So I wonder what having the L drop away means. What I like about the name Liam is that it's made up of only vowels and approximants. So there's no actual clear stop in the flow of the name. There's no plosive sound. So you can continue each phoneme. Liam. Whereas you couldn't do that with a name that had an abrupt consonantal stop in it, like Mark. You have to stop on the k. You can't prolong the k sound. So that's a fun, nice fact. And thank you, dear John F., for your friendship necklace and a tiny yippee. Thank you, dear Usha. Happy to have you here again. I'm so happy to be indirectly connected to your Gurudev through the book that you have provided our Sangha. Jai Gurudev Vishwar Guruji. And thank you for your rose. And thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your pair of roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. Riyanan, you share that my name has the Om in it. It almost does indeed. Whereas Om is the Bija mantra for the crown chakra. Bija meaning the seed. Yam is the Bija syllable for the heart chakra. You open your crown chakra by chanting Om. But you open the heart by chanting Yam. And the root chakra is Lam, which is also close to my name. If you just drop the Y, you open the root chakra by chanting Lam. So you could say that my name is the combination of two mantras. The root in the heart, red and the green, like Christmas. Thank you, Cosmic Flute. Sikmin, you're wondering, do I have a favorite meal? You need new ideas. Oh, I'm probably not the person to ask. I had Indian food last night, or 2 nights ago, and it was lovely. I just love Indian food. There's a rich history of a spiritual connection with the spices in Indian food and the chakras, actually. Speaking of which, there's this ancient practice called Ayurveda, which stems from the medicinal portion of the Vedas, humanity's oldest revelations. And they dealt with how the body reacts with the mind in the form of various doshas and various tattvas, elements, various gunas, qualities. Some of you might wonder, why is it that Indians prefer certain spice combinations that you don't find anywhere else in the world? And it's because of this ancient practice of Ayurveda, which actually activates certain components of a person's mind. You'll notice that after eating some traditional Indian food, that your mind just works in a different way for the next day. Your state of consciousness is experiencing a whole new method of experiencing this world. So these cultures that have ancient traditions of very specific spice combinations, I would investigate certain meals with that in mind. The brain-gut axis. Yeah. I love that phrase, Ethan. And thank you, Ryan the Nerd, for your heart me a moment ago. Hybrid Jen, you share that you tried doing those sounds and your son yells loudly at you. You told him to go. You're trying here. Maybe your son is telling you that different chakras require your attention. In fact, your son is like a chakra. As we were talking about, a chakra is a concentration of prana. Prana means the flow of awareness. A child literally is a fulfilling solution to that definition. Because a child is a concentration of the awareness, of the love of a mother, of a father. Without that flow of awareness, the chakra that they represent can never be opened. And so we end up with adults that have never opened themselves up because the awareness was never directed their way. The mantra of your child is their name. Simply call their name, and all the prana is flowing to them. Oh, thank you, Sarah, for your community fest. You shared that you didn't mean to do that you didn't even know you could. Well, thank you nonetheless. Happy to have you here, Sarah. Hybrid Jen, you share, you're making all your kids go to camp tomorrow. No Wi-Fi, only trees. No internet connection, only natural connection. I'm sure they'll love that. In hindsight. In the moment I was always suffering in camp, but in hindsight it was some of my favorite times. I'm sure many of you can relate. It was a time of great transformation, of great growth. Gemma Walker, you're wondering, where am I? I'm in my mum's backyard. In Canada. And hello, dear Trisha. You missed the reading again? Oh, that's okay. That's why I always record them and upload them. And thank you, School of Fire, for your heart me. Shar, you share that you are in Canada too. Happy to have fellow Canadians here and people from all over the world. I'm in me mum's vaha. Is that yard in Sanskrit, Marcy? Vaha. That's great. Well, don't worry, Trisha. We will do more reading as this live goes on. User, you had shared that you have bad memory and you feel like it's linked to confidence. You share that I'm the opposite of you in that way. Any tips? If you're implying I have no anxiety, that's not true. Anxiety, I think, is a basic human emotion. That's why it was included in Inside Out too, alongside other emotions like joy, and anger, and sadness, and fear, and disgust. Confidence, the understanding of which most people, including a younger version of myself, had an opposite impression of it. That I thought to be confident means to be bold and cocky and ostentatious, where you suddenly don't care anymore. But actually, the more confident you are is associated with the more humble you are. That if you deepen your humility, you begin to appreciate everyone's perspective equally. That we don't give any more attention to one person's negative advice as we do to another person's positive advice. That we just honor all perspectives. Being humble means that we don't see much of ourselves as anyone. And we're happy to be a nobody, because then we're not crossing over people's egos. We're not trying to make anyone else feel small because we feel ourselves to be so big. We become like a gust of wind. We become so light that we go wherever the wind takes us. Memory, I find, happens when you find a place of stability in life. People who are going through very traumatic events, without the ability to process these intense experiences, they become repressed. And even when we're out of a traumatic experience, and now we're engaging in school or work, or we have a new friend group, we're still unable to process all of our new experiences because we have so much to process still in our subconscious. It's hard to give conscious awareness to so many different aspects of life when there's something that needs our attention within. There's some feeling that we've been neglecting. And I found that the more we attend to childhood trauma, the more that we forgive ourselves for everything that we've gone through, it has less to do with confidence as it is to trauma. The more that we forgive ourselves for everything that we've gone through, it has less to do with confidence as it trauma. The more that we forgive ourselves for everything that we've gone through, it has less to do with confidence as it is to how many decades later. Your memories are all there. It's not a matter of being more confident, having more control, but having the humility to surrender and dive deep into all those things which we have yet to process consciously. So a kind of therapy, a kind of shadow work, a kind of meditative practice, I believe that these will sharpen your memory. And so many will probably come to the floodgates that it might get emotional. No wonder we've been repressing these feelings, because they're difficult to experience. But with courage, with love, trust, and a supportive environment around you, we can begin to process these memories and have our subconscious open up, and we'll become so much more in tune with everything we've experienced thus far. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your paper crane a few minutes ago. Hare Krishna. Hybrid Jen, you share. You don't know if you want to revisit, though, to backtrack. I know how you feel. It's very important. I remember you sharing that, now that you have a son, you want the most for their well-being. One of the most difficult things about parenthood that I've learned from my own parents and other parents is that we have generational trauma. And the only way to stop this trauma from continuing to the next generation is to revisit all of the scary things in our childhood so that we don't take on those traits. Unfortunately, it seems like a curse that the more we try not to be like our parents, the more we end up becoming like them. So for the sake of the well-being of our children, it is important to go back into our past and bring all these difficult feelings to the surface and process them, to feel them, let them go, to cultivate a sense of forgiveness. And we will free up so much emotional space for our loved ones. Thank you, Helen Xavier, for your rose and ice cream cone. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Thank you, Cher, for your rosa. Om Kringalikaye Namaha. Oh, you're welcome, user. Much love to you too. And thank you, John F., for your fruit friends. I could use some fruit. My body definitely could today. So thank you for the reminder. Benno, you ask, can I talk about ruminating on negative experiences? That's a very relevant question. A lot of shadow work involves going into our negative experiences. But yet, if that's what it requires to have a therapeutic relationship with our childhood self, our younger self, and we all should be peaceful by now, since so many of us also ruminate on those negative experiences. The difference is in the sentiment. When we are ruminating, we want to escape those feelings. But the more we resist them, the more they persist. In shadow work, we consciously bring them to mind with forgiveness as a goal, with unconditional judgment, where we try to take a thought, take a feeling, take an experience, and then drop all of the labels that we associate with it, like, this is why I'm anxious, this is why I'm such a bad person, this is why I can never be happy. We associate all these weights with them that weigh us down. And when we are ruminating on negative experiences, we are also ruminating on all those weights that do weigh us down. And so we are not freed from this kind of intellectual process. However, in therapy and meditation and shadow work, any time which we free up some space in our mind to make room for the repressed thoughts, feelings, and memories, we do so with the intention of making things lighter, with the intention of understanding, of holding space for our own feelings, without trying to judge any moving piece, just freeing up space, separating a little bit of the pieces of ourselves that have become too intertwined with these things, just untying these knots, making things a little lighter, a little more spacious. I think that would be the difference between ruminating on a negative memory and consciously bringing them to mind with the intention of freeing up space. Hi Bridget, you share your palms are already sweating. I think Eminem said something similar once, because you saw some memories in past thinking about it. And don't feel like you have to do shadow work right now in this moment. Such is why there are such occupations as counselors, as therapists. Having someone there to guide you is very important, to constantly remind you that this is a safe place. Making our environment such that it's conducive to this vulnerability. But until then, we can be aware of how shaky we get, how much we begin to perspirate. That shows that there's something in us that has yet to be settled. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. And at the right time, at the right place, with the right intention, it will be settled. There's no rush on the healing journey. As a paramedic once told me, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. The slower you do something, the smoother the process becomes. And the smoother the process becomes, the faster it ends up happening. Thank you, Anna, for your community fest and trio of roses. Om Shrim Mahalakshmaya Namaha. Hi Bridget, you share that you once told yourself you're a robot, that your memories were planted and it's not real. Oh. What is most real is what is happening in this moment. Our memories can change over time, as is how we feel about them. And sometimes the way we remember something is not as real as the way it occurred. But the feelings associated with the memories, that's very real. Some people could say that this reality is a simulation, that it's an illusion. Okay. Even then, our experience of it is very real. The emotion, the love, the pain is still very real. You know? So there really is a difference we can make by befriending our emotions, our feelings, especially the tough ones, regardless of how real of an event they're associated with. Slow and steady wins the race. Wonderfully stated, Rhiannon. Thank you, Benmo. Indigo Child, you had asked, what is my stance with DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder? What is my stance? Well, I guess I stand up for those who are struggling with it. As not a psychologist, as not a psychiatrist, I could only rely on my experience with people in my life that do have this condition. And that experience is very limited. I can also try to imagine what it would be like to have a fractured sense of self, or maybe fractured isn't the right term. Have a multiplicity of identity, you could say. Spirituality, I feel like, kind of has a solution, at least a philosophical solution, maybe not a practical solution, how to deal with it, but spiritually speaking, kind of the ultimate conclusion is that there is only one consciousness. You know, forget how many consciousnesses are within an individual person. There's only one within all people. Your consciousness is the same as my consciousness. And I love that, Sky Guardian. For dissociative identity disorder, multiple jivas being reflected by that one consciousness. Yes. There's a beautiful spiritual perspective here, is that even in the diversity of different bodies, different people, there is only one source which is being reflected in all of them. Seems as though this process just has another layer to it in individuals with dissociative identity disorder. That there is not only one reflection of consciousness happening, but multiple. And the spiritual path is all about merging these reflections together in some sense, to recognizing that it's all one big continuous reflection. That is to say, a person is not the identity in their mind or series of identities in their mind. They are, in essence, the conscious witness that views all identities as coming and going. So, Atma Vidya is the Sanskrit term for self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, I believe, can help along with psychiatry and psychology. Psychiatry can maybe help provide a diagnosis, and that diagnosis can make you understand different things that you go through similar to others. And maybe, I don't actually know if there's medication associated with dissociative identity disorder, but that could help in the meanwhile. And the psychology, that can help with the therapy and any of the traumas that may have induced an intensification of this experience. And a spiritual practice can deepen the understanding of the Atma, the self that is beyond all mental forms. And thank you, user, for your hearts and your trio of roses. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And thank you, user, for another rose and transient luminescence. Thank you for your heart, me. I'm so happy that you have such a wonderful perspective on it too, Indigo Child, and a very wise person and an expert in what you're going through. That will absolutely be helpful. I think in one way in which we kind of all can relate to this experience of having a fractalized identity. I like that word that someone mentioned, a fractal. Because a fractal is still one piece, but it has various portions reflecting the whole. Is like how the Buddhists say that if you look for a non-changing self, and in this case by self we don't mean Atma, we mean a sense of self, an ego. We have a different ego in each moment, you could say, because there's something, a part of our identity that changes depending on the circumstance. We all have different aspects of ourselves that come out in different moments. And I believe that relating in this way can help reduce the stigma, potentially, because I can sometimes know what it's like to have different parts of me, become dominant at any given moment, where I feel like this is who I am, and at other times not. Thank you, user, for another rose. Theist cool one, you ask, how does one find a good guru? It seems like so many end up abusing their power. Indeed. Who knows the ratio of good gurus to bad gurus? To Sat gurus to Ku gurus. Sat meaning a true guru. Ku meaning a bad guru. Ku guru. There should always be a kind of skepticism, because if you drop your guard entirely, then indeed the last thing we want is to become ignorant of abuse happening. So there is a part of our experience which is necessary, just as there is a kind of divinity within the guru who is able to deliver the spiritual teaching. There is a divinity within you which is able to guide you to a guru. When your inner self, your Paramatma, provides the grace, you find the guru. And when the guru provides the grace, you find your inner self. You can also observe if they seemingly are doing something for the purpose of a selfish gain. Are they trying to amass a kind of wealth? Are they trying to amass a kind of power? And it can be very obvious when someone is not, because they just don't have any possessions, they don't have a home, they're always going around the world, a bit of a nomad, or they live in a cave, in ancient times. That can be one criteria, but all of this is secondary to, I think, what the most important criteria is, which is, are you benefiting from their presence? Are you becoming more peaceful? It's such a simple question, but sometimes we fail to recognize this. Conversely, are we becoming more judgmental? Do we find ourselves in more and more arguments? On average, we might have periods that the guru may even bring out in us, where all of our neuroses come to the surface. But over time, on average, are we becoming humbler? Are we becoming more peaceful? Are we becoming more knowledgeable about ourselves? That's a good sign, isn't it? Because those are all qualities that the Guru is supposed to guide you to ultimately. By definition, Guru, the first syllable Gu means darkness, and the second syllable Ru means the dissolver of. So a Guru is one who is able to dissolve the darkness of ignorance, and by implication bring you into the light of awareness. Ignorance means there's some part of ourself that we're not paying attention to. Awareness means that we have become unconditionally conscious of everything without discrimination or prejudice. A traditional qualification for a guru is their ability to cite scripture too. That they don't just rely entirely on their experience, they rely on the experience of their guru, that they rely on the experience of the rishis, the ancient seers that put into word these ideas for the first time. A guru can bring you in contact with an ancient tradition. It's not something that they've devised out of nowhere, their own manasputra, their own mental creation. They're just going with the way things have always been. That's a great criterion. Thank you, user, for your bubble tea, your cake, your little crown, your tiny, yippee, your popcorn, your pair of perfumes, your whipped coffee, your donut, and your, another whipped coffee. Thank you. Om Mani Padme Om. Sun Willow, you ask, what's wrong with finding the answers within? Nothing wrong at all, my dear. And that's exactly what a guru will guide you to. A guru is not someone who has anything you don't. Rather, they are your outward expression of your innermost being. All they can do is guide you within. Many of us don't know how to be guided within. And so we require the help of a teacher who has undergone this process themselves. That way, any obstacle that happens on your path, they will be able to navigate with you. It's in the same way that we have teachers in medicine, teachers in physics, teachers in writing, teachers in engineering. Whenever we want to discover the truth of a certain experience, we go to someone who has experienced it themselves. It'd be very difficult to teach yourself calculus. Although in theory it can be done, it'd be very difficult to teach yourself anything without the help of a teacher. And the teacher doesn't even have to be living. They don't have to be in your presence either. Such is why we can read from the teachings of a textbook, or we can listen to musicians and how they play their song, and then figure out what combination of fingering will work for this chord on this guitar too. There is absolutely a bit of both. Self-discovery and the process guided by someone who has also experienced that self-discovery. Thank you, Yosan, for your 14 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Spencerius, thank you for your trio of tiny tinies. Yippee! Richard, you ask, do I even get mad? Of course, I'm only human. But in the times that I have gotten mad in life, I have to remember that I often caused harm, that I ended up hurting others, and especially myself in the process. So whenever I do feel anger arise, I try as hard as I can to remember the harm that I'm capable of, and also the healing that I'm capable of. So I walk away until I'm feeling better, or I tell them that this is making me frustrated. I recognize the difference between the emotion and my reaction to the emotion. The emotion happens naturally, but our reaction does not have to. We can have a more conscious redirection of our reaction amidst our emotions. But that's way easier said than done, and I'm definitely still learning myself. Have I ever been mad at Sandy? He's been frustrating me sometimes, but I always realize that, Sandy, my lovely cat, he has only this long to live compared to my life. He's just trying to get my attention because there will be a time in my life where I won't be able to give him attention because he won't be here anymore. He just wants to play in the short few years that he's able to experience this life with me. How can I get upset? So I'm really only frustrated with my own expectations for doing something at a certain time and not being distracted. But the least I could do is make room for his wants and needs too. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your 7 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sun Willow, you're wondering, where does channeling come in? Those that are not healers chanting the healing arts. Well, I think it's funny you put it like that, because to me, that is what it means to be a healer, is that all healing comes from the higher self, the universal consciousness, and we just become channelers to that in the moment. That is what makes someone a healer, is that they are able to embody divine consciousness. And what does it mean to have divine consciousness? It means that you accommodate all forms of life, because the divine consciousness is that which resides universally. Being in touch with your higher self, that higher self in which everyone exists, means to go in help, in healing of all parts of life and not just our own dominion. Oh, thank you, my lovely mother. I have to show you the flowers that she just brought. From her garden that she grew with the help of Mother Nature. On behalf of my mother, let this be an offering to all of you for all of the lovely flowers that you give me virtually. Here's one for you. Many for you, in fact. Speaking of which, thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your quartet of disco loves you sent a minute ago. And OPNG, thank you for your music play. Radhe or Radhe. One little creature, thank you for your one beautiful rose. And thank you, L, for your rose too. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Can I show the flowers once more? Sure. There are so many different kinds here, and I love the golden spiral at the center of that flower there. One of the beautiful ways in which math and nature connect is in the distribution of all the individual elements at the center of that flower. If you rotated around a circle in some rational fraction of a full cycle, you would always get these overlapping elements. So to really distribute all of these elements equally, we have to rotate in a rational angle around. Irrational means that it's a fraction of a whole which has no repeating digits. So that makes for this beautiful pattern we call an irrational spiral. There's lots of mathematics in these flowers. You'll often find that most flowers have a Fibonacci number of flower petals, or a power of 2 multiple of them, like in these flowers, these purple ones here. They either have 4, which is a multiple of 2, or 3, which are both Fibonacci numbers. And even if you counted all of the petals on this flower we were looking at before, you would likely have some big Fibonacci number worth. Such a wonderful variety. But thank you, Painted Lady, Woodland Fairy, for your heart me, team bracelet, a best team and a cheer you up that you sent a few moments ago. Om Dum Durgai Namaha. And Red October, thank you for your cloud bread. Jai Sitaram. One little creature, thank you for your pair of roses too. Namo Buddhaya. Thank you, dear L, for your W in heart me. Radhe or Radhe. And thank you for your team bracelet too. Thank you, Renvox, for your ginger man. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And thank you, Kat, for your 10 roses. Hare Krishna. And OPNG, thank you for your rose too. And hello and thank you, Dob Darker, for your heart me. Radhe or Radhe. One little creature, you share that you think about the monster and how it is out there and is something. And that's all we can really think about it. It exists somewhere, somehow. Actually, I'll tell you in one way that it might exist. There's a funny overlap between group theory and physics. Around the turn of the 19th century, this physicist, mathematician, Emmy Noether, I don't know how to pronounce her name, she proved that every law of physics is really just a symmetry. What a symmetry means is that you can transform your perspective of something and have a self-mapping alignment. Like how you take a triangle And you can rotate a triangle over an image of itself, and it will overlap perfectly. Or you can mirror it, and it overlaps perfectly. Those are two kinds of symmetries. Mirror symmetry, rotational symmetry, but there's other kinds of symmetries too. Like if you take something and you move it in a direction and it lines up on itself, it would have to be infinite for this to happen. Then that's a translational symmetry. We're going to come back to the monster. This universe, the physics in it has a translational symmetry. The physics in any spot seems to work regardless if you were to take the whole universe and move it to the right a foot. Same stuff would happen. It doesn't matter where. So there's a translational symmetry acting on the physics. This is actually what gives rise to the conservation of momentum. Because physics kind of works in any direction equally, that means that if you are already going in a direction, your momentum will be conserved. Similarly, the universe works the same way regardless if you're upside down or rotating it in any direction. So there's a rotational symmetry, and therefore angular momentum exists. And the universe seems to have a time symmetry, that regardless of the time that an event happens, it seems to evolve according to the same laws of physics. So that gives rise to a conservation of energy through time. And there are other symmetries, like in the electromagnetic field, which give rise to various different forces, such as electromagnetism. And I'm not sure the other symmetries and how they relate to the other laws of physics. But the point being is that nowadays we discover new physics by asking questions about how the symmetries of the universe work, how the universe is symmetric in different ways, how the laws of physics are symmetric. This has given rise to various discoveries and various theories of physics. Like string theory is just based on tweaking the symmetries. And as such, there's symmetries based on the Leech lattice or the E8 lattice as being a foundation for all the symmetries. These objects, like the Leech lattice or the E8 lattice, they are highly symmetric objects. And an object with symmetry in mathematics is called a symmetric group, or just a group for short. This is where the monster group comes in. The monster group is the biggest exception known to our classification of symmetry groups. All of the infinite different symmetric groups that can exist, they can fall into different categories, but not the sporadic groups, the biggest of which is called the monster. And a monster is a kind of symmetry that has almost 200,000 dimensions. So if you wanted to see a physical object that had this kind of symmetry, then forget a three-dimensional universe. You require about a 200,000 dimensional universe. However, some people believe that actually the grand unified field, which is responsible for all physical interactions, hypothetically, has an algebra on it that has monster symmetry. In other words, the grand conclusion of this tangent is that our very universal laws, our very physics itself, may be the monster. And that doesn't necessarily mean that our universe has 200,000 physical dimensions, but it has that many symmetries in other aspects, in other, what's it called? In its phase space, the space of all variables. Anyway, I don't really want to go into what phase spaces are. This is a long enough tangent. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your pair of disco loves. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yonav Prachodayat. Thank you, L. Or is it L or Ellie? I think it's L. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish. Thank you for your hand hearts. There's some for you too. And Josan, thank you for your disco love too. And Fotini, thank you for your trio of roses. Creatures of the stars, you're wondering, did I study in college? No. Although I went to college, I never studied. That was one of my biggest weaknesses in school, that you really couldn't sit me down and read through a textbook. I could never pay attention to the teacher. I was always in my own world, and I would just grasp enough to be able to pass the test. And eventually, my own world kind of took me out of school entirely. And I thought, I'm not even going to class. I'm not even doing the readings. Why am I even a student? So I realized that academic life was not the path for me. El, you share. Ellen is your name. Oh, what a beautiful name. Thank you for sharing. Lil Bapur, you were wondering, what language was I speaking? The oldest known language, and this is excluding the hypothetical reconstructions, like Proto-Indo-European. The oldest language that we have a definitive proof of a person speaking at one point in time was Sanskrit. And amazingly, it's also still used today. In fact, you use many Sanskrit words without knowing, as it is the original language for spiritual concepts like yoga, divine union, karma, material action, mantra, divine syllables, guru, spiritual teacher, Buddha, an awakened one, chakra, wheel of consciousness. These are all words that are probably at least 5,000 years old, but it's very difficult to date a language which was spoken before we started writing anything down as a humanity. Could be much older than that. Hybrid Jen, you have a chair like this that you sit on over there. It's a very nice chair. A wicket. It looks like a wicket basket. Must have taken a very long time to weave together. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your trio of roses, and L for another finger heart. Radhe, Radhe. And, oh, is that Yana? Thank you, Yana, for your heart me. Jai Sitaram. And thank you, JD Questions, for your trio of Gimme the Votes and a finger heart. There's a finger heart for you too. Eden, you share that you learned that you didn't know how to pronounce anything. Learning Sanskrit is very humbling because it shows that in modern times we have a very loose grip on language. The phonetics of Sanskrit is so precise that it really teaches you exactly how all the organs in this mouth come together to convey meaning. From our gutter, which is the back of the throat, our soft palate, our hard palate, our teeth and our lips, and of course our tongue. That we can categorize sounds based on place of articulation and quality of sound. Sanskrit is highly structured, and you can pair up any place of articulation with a quality of sound. Like you can take, let's say the soft palate, and let's make a nasalized sound there. Thus we create the Sanskrit sound nya, nya, nya. Or we could take the labial place of articulation, pair that with a fricative quality, and you get fa, fa, fa. It's a two-dimensional space where on one axis we have places of articulation, and on the other axis we have qualities of sound. It's said that if you can learn how to pronounce Sanskrit, you can learn how to pronounce any language, because all sounds are classified, or they come from this two-dimensional space of sound that modern-day linguists have been able to capture in this phonetic space. So it's a very scientific language. Hello, Nano. Nice to see you. And oh, I love the sun out today too. It's partly cloudy. It comes out and it goes sometimes. Grateful human, you're wondering, is everyone truly exactly where they should be? If you think in terms of should and should not, you will never have a joyful experience. No matter what model you sieve life through in terms of shoulds and shouldn'ts, there will always be something that you should or should not be doing. If we want to be truly joyful, at least in this moment, let go of notions of should or should not. It's not that everyone should be where they are, or that they shouldn't be anywhere else. It's that they are where they are, and that's enough to begin your life. And what I mean by begin is that anything you have to accomplish in this life, it begins with where we are here. If we deny the reality of our current existence, how will we know the best way forward? Because the best way forward must accommodate where we are here and now. And thank you, Ursan, for your pair of roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, Yana, for your TikTok too. Om Shri Mahalakshmaya Namaha. Now, I love to do little readings throughout my live, and it's been 2 hours and I forgot to do one. let's fill that void with a reading from this wonderful Sufi poet from the 1200s, the renowned Persian Sufi mystic Rumi. So let's make our heart nice and roomy for his divine poetry. Oh, this is a long one. I like this. Let's do a nice long one today. This poem is called Song of the Reed. Listen to the reed and the tale it tells, how it sings of separation. Ever since they cut me from the reed bed, my wail has caused men and women to weep. I want a heart torn open with longing to share the pain of this love. Whoever has been parted from his source longs to return to that state of union. At every gathering, I play my lament. I'm a friend to both happy and sad. Each befriended me for its own reasons, yet none searched out the secrets I contain. My secret is not different than my lament, yet this is not for the senses to perceive. The body is not hidden from the soul, nor is the soul hidden from the body. And yet the soul is not for everyone to see. This flute is played with fire, not with wind, and without this fire you would not exist. It is the fire of love that inspires the flute. It is the ferment of love that completes the wine. The reed is a comfort to all estranged lovers. Its music tears our veils away. Have you ever seen a poison or antidote like the reed? Have you ever seen a more intimate companion and lover? It sings of the path of blood. It relates the passion of Majnun. Only to the senseless is this sense confided. Does the tongue have any patron but the ear? Our days grow more unseasonable, these days which mix with grief and pain. But if the days that remain are few, let them go. It doesn't matter. But you remain, for nothing is as pure as you are. All but the fish quickly have their fill of his water. And the day is long without his daily bread. The raw do not understand the state of the ripe, so my words will be brief. Break your bonds, be free, my child. How longer will silver and gold enslave you? If you pour the whole sea into a jug, will it hold more than one day's store? The greedy eye, like the jug, is never filled. Until content, the oyster holds no pearl. Only one who has been undressed by love is free of defect and desire. O gladness, O love, our partner in trade, healer of all our ills, our Plato and Galen, remedy of our pride and our vanity. With love this earthly body could soar in the air, the mountain could arise and nimbly dance. Love gave life to Mount Sinai, O lover. Sinai was drunk. Moses lost consciousness, pressed to the lips of one in harmony with myself. I might also tell all that can be told, but without a common tongue I am dumb, even if I have 100 songs to sing. When the rose is gone and the garden faded, you will never hear the nightingale's song. The beloved is all, the lover just a veil. The beloved is living, the lover a dead thing. If love holds its strengthening care, the lover is left a bird without wings. How will I be awake and aware if the light of the beloved is absent? Love wills that this word be brought forth. If you find the mirror of the heart dull, the rust has not been cleared from its face. O friends, listen to this tale, the marrow of our inward state. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that poem as much as I did. Good evening, Anazek. Thank you, John F., for your paper crane and best team a few minutes ago. Jai Sitaram. Thank you, Chris P. Bacon, for your friendship necklace. Om Dum Durgai Namaha. And Urson, thank you for your 12 roses and a finger heart. There's one for you too. G to Infinity, you share. You're gonna watch the recording tomorrow for this read. And read, of a read you shall. And don't let your name deceive me. You are a vegetarian. Crispy Bacon. You're funny. G to Infinity, you share that Rumi just answered the question of the day. He always does. Which is funny. Angie, you share your ADHD can't handle reading. It just goes in one ear and out the other. No problem with that, my dear. Let the words hit your heart and not be bothered by the mind. Just as we were when we were children. We could be playing with our fingers and patting our lap and ripping grass out of the ground, looking out of the window, and yet our teacher is delivering to us everything we need to know in order to read, in order to write, and somehow we managed to do those things, even when our attention was anywhere but the teaching. If you listen like a child, you can let your mind wander, but yet have it sink into your heart. I know my neurodivergent and neurospicy friends. I know that they are paying the most attention when they're not looking at me. Because when they are looking at me, it means they're constantly thinking about how they're trying to listen to me and how to make eye contact. And if they're always thinking about that, I know that their attention is best opened up when their awareness flows freely. Nano, you ask for encouraging words to endure times of patience and waiting for better turnouts. Having patience means having faith, having a kind of knowingness that this too shall pass. If we are patient, but yet we disbelieve that good things will come, then why are we being patient? Patience implies a kind of trust, a trust in yourself that good things will come. Then why are we being patient? Patience implies a kind of trust, a trust in yourself to be able to endure the moment. And it is only this moment that we have to endure. I remember beginning to understand this when I had a particularly intense psychoactive experience that I wouldn't recommend to anyone. I asked my mother to pick me up, And while I was waiting for her, while I was waiting for this experience to pass, I had to remind myself that all I have to get through is this moment. All I have to do is make it to the next breath. And now that I'm at my next breath, all I have to do is make it to that one. It's like the story of the clock that I really love. I'll tell it to you all. It's a nice short one. There was this clockmaker who was so good that it was said that he breathed life into his creations. One day, while putting a cog as the final piece in this great clock, the clock let out a big sigh. And the clockmaker said, "Mr. Clock, why did you just let out a big sigh?" And the clock said, "Well, Mr. Maker, you've made me so well that I know I'm going to have to endure so many tick-tock, tick-tocks." Relevant. We're all on TikTok, unless you're watching the recording of this. Sometimes it feels like that when you're scrolling, or when your friend sends you so many TikToks. How many TikToks you have to endure? The clockmaker said, "Well, Mr. Clock, yes, although I have built you to endure such a long time, all you have to do is keep track of this moment. And every other moment will follow naturally. It is only one swing of the pendulum, one tick, one tock at a time that you ever have to be aware of. So narrow your sense of time, O Mr. Clock, away from the future, away from the past. Center it here, now. This is all you have to endure." At that understanding, the clock let out a sigh again, but instead of a sigh of disappointment, it was a sigh of relief. It was, in this way, regardless of how much you have to endure, 1,000-mile journey always begins in a single step. You never have to take 1,000, 100, or even 10 or 2 steps at once. Just one step at a time. Thank you, Anazek, for your trio of roses a few minutes ago. I always love that story. I hope you like it too. And hey Ma, thank you for your heart me. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Thank you, Karma Cat, for your rose and quartet of applause. I have some applause for you too. Thank you, Ragnhildur, for your trio of roses. Jai Sat-Chit-Ananda. Thank you, John, for your tiny yippee. Before I get eclipsed by the mount in which my phone is on. That looks cool when I have my hand perfectly in the center of the shadow. Looks like I'm creating a kind of bubble, or that my hand has been photoshopped onto the video. Let's wrap up today's Sangha with a short question of the day, reading, and then a guided meditation. Thank you for listening, Nano. Although being peaceful is not easy, it is the most simple way of being. Today I ask of you all, upon what realization does the world meld into one? And I recognize the poetic abstraction that this question inspires. But please feel free to interpret this question in any way that at least makes sense. I am not looking to some answer to a riddle, but you're welcome to provide a riddling answer. Nor is there a right or wrong answer. This is what came to mind today. Priscilla, you share in just 2 simple words. Love ever. Forever and ever. Thank you, Cosmic Garden Dancer. What a beautiful name you have. Or a title, I should say. Title that we all can maintain. Thank you for your heart, me. Thank you for sharing your light and love to everyone here, Gabriella. Jiva, you share consciousness creates the universe. Tadhastu. As it is. Marcy, you share infinity's relationship to infinity. I like that. Yosand, you share that your world is one when you are snuggling with your twin boys or with your girlfriend. I love that because you have your whole world one with you in that moment. John F., you share birth and death. I like that. Dependent arising. Oh yes, that is what you shared at the beginning, Eden, in the wonderful Sanskrit. Rahina, you share that quantum physics proves it perfectly. One particle can be split, sent far away, but still be connected. Sounds like you are describing the double slit experiment and superposition. And I forget the word for 2 particles being entwined from long distance. Entanglement, that's it. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Jiva. I love that. I am sorry to hear that, Nano. No matter what comes and goes in your life, happiness is always your device. What I mean by that is joy and misery are experiences we cultivate within ourselves. Knowing this, the benefactor of joy that you are can never be lost to you. And no matter how much misery or grief we go through, also that joy remains, perhaps in a latent state, perhaps in a way that has yet to be fully expressed or realized, but the innate nature of your joy can never leave you. It is one with you, my friend. Kimberly, you ask, the world or your world? I love your questioning of the article we use to address this funny noun we call world. For you share the birth of a new child always seems uniting. I love that. Thank you, Chifa Ji, for your rose. Radhe Radhe. Chifa Ji, you share, yeah, I don't know why, but thinking good thoughts makes you happy. Our thoughts can be like a battleground sometimes. And it's hard to find the peace amidst all the toil and turmoil and trouble. But choosing the thoughts which are here to validate our life and the world surrounding it, immanent with it, is a beautiful way of expressing our innate joy. Now, Anna, you share that when you realize you are the cosmos itself, and it's beautiful. And Yosan, you shared as well that sometimes happiness is the source of your smile. Sometimes your smile is the source of your happiness. There's a relationship that goes two ways with all phenomena. It's funny. Cybersecurity analysts, cryptographers, they're always searching for a one-way hash, a way to encrypt something that can never be decrypted. Now, mathematics, you could explore the possibilities, and it's very interesting. But from our common sense, from our direct experience of life, it seems as though there is nothing that happens in one direction that cannot also happen in another. Sometimes it's imbalanced, and that it's easier to go one way than another, but never is it impossible. And I love the way you put that, Enzo. Unrealization is when the world is one. That's beautiful. Hello, little bug. There's a bug on the yam, on the sock, on my microphone. Sing it with me, kids. There's a bug on the yam, on the sock, on my microphone. Oh, you dancing? You're dancing again. This happened earlier in the month. A bug hopped on the microphone and started going like this. Ding, ding, ding. What did you do? Did you just jump into my mouth? Almost. You missed. Jumped into my collar or something. Alright, thank you everyone for exploring this bountiful question with me. I love all the answers we have for it. You've got this. You had asked, is it good to meditate before going to sleep? Well, if you want to sleep, yes. If you want to meditate, no. Although sleep is a form of meditation. The Dalai Lama says that sleep is the best meditation. If you want to fall asleep quickly, meditating is really good, especially if you do it in your bed. But if you want to not fall asleep while you're meditating, then the best time is in the morning or before you eat, where you're very, very awake. Well, you're not fully cerebral yet. Your intellectual abilities have yet to come up, but the waking consciousness has emerged. In fact, there is a name for the best hour of the day, the best muhurti it's called. That's the Brahma Muhurti. The hour of God is the best time to meditate. And when is the Brahma Muhurti? It is from the hours of 3 to 4 to 5 a.m., depending on where you are in the world. Basically, whenever the first light is hitting the earth. When the first light actually hits you before it even hits the earth. when the light is parallel to the ground, and therefore hitting you, which is perpendicular to the ground, but not yet falling on it. The hour of Brahma Muhurti is the best hour to meditate, as yogis have been for thousands of years. Thank you, dear Edio, for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. Alright, I'd love to read from you another section of this yogic book on the hidden power in humans, all about chakras and Kundalini. Where did we stop reading last time? We stopped reading as we were discussing the distinction between Jivatma, Atma, and Paramatma, between the soul, the self, and God, between literally the individual consciousness as a whole, and the higher consciousness, the supreme consciousness. Jivatma, Atma, Paramatma. You can think of it as a metaphor for a bubble. A bubble appears to divide the sky outside from the air within. The air within we might call the Jivatma, the individual self. The air without we might call the Paramatma, the supreme self. But it's all just the Atma. The same air inside the bubble as it is without is all one. And when the bubble pops, there really is no difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. There is only Atma. And that is the goal of yoga, to pop the bubble of individual consciousness. We left with a beautiful definition for enlightenment, that enlightenment means that there is no longer any corner of the consciousness remaining in darkness. Consciousness is a synonym for Atma, for the self, the true self. However, in full, one cannot explain or describe the Atma. The closest comparison is with light or space. Space cannot be cut, burnt, or otherwise destroyed. Space always remains space. One can divide space by fences or walls to create quote-unquote individual spheres that can be shaped or decorated differently. But as soon as the demarcations are removed, the undivided, unified space again emerges. And that's a great question, Razmi. But doesn't that happen upon death? That has been a big divide in many philosophical systems for thousands of years. Whether true enlightenment happens within a human life or at the moment of death. And the answer in yoga is that it happens at death, but at the death of our limited persona, our limited ego, also known as ego death. Because if we die with all of our ignorances, we get reborn with all of them too. We have to work on it while we are alive, while we are conscious. And that is why yoga is a very active philosophy, one that engages us in our life. Good question. Just as walls divide space, the body, mind, intellect, disposition, qualities, and experiences assembled at this quote-unquote person mark the boundaries of the self for a while. The body dies, the person changes, but not the Atma, not the true self. Our true self is the unborn, unchanging, and immortal. It is the quote-unquote king around whom the cosmic forces gather in the royal household and again disperse after they have left their palace. The body. The philosophical schools of India, particularly yoga philosophy, have examined the essential question regarding our existence. Who am I? And given us an answer to this. Strictly speaking, yoga is one of the 6 schools of Indian philosophy. But as we associate it with postures and exercises here in the West, we may not understand or appreciate that yoga is a fully fledged philosophy that not just hypothesizes over the nature of existence, but actually gives you practical tools in order to realize it and become one with the ultimate. Such is why, since our body is a part of this experience, there are yogic principles that apply to the body as well. Examine yourself. Are you the body, the mind, your qualities, thoughts, or feelings? Or are you something else? As you continue to search more deeply, you realize the more subtle aspects of your being, right up to the level of the elements that we talked about earlier. These are Akash, space, Vayu, air, Tejas, fire, Apas, water, and Prithvi, earth. Then finally you recognize that you are not the tattvas, the elements, or the gunas, the qualities, such as darkness, tamas, passion, rajas, or purity, sattva, and experience yourself as Sat-Chit-Anandam, truth, consciousness, bliss. That is your true nature. Sat-Chit-Anandam. It is the essence of the divine self that lives within you, the eternal, infinite, and immutable Atma. The only true reality within us is the Atma, the self. Everything else is unreality. Atma is known as Trikaladarshi. Trikala literally means the 3 times. The past, the present, the future, and Darshi means the one who sees, the knower, and the witness. So Trikala-darsha means the witness of both, of each, the past, the present, and the future. And also as Chaitanya, as pure awareness, the conscious witness of everything that happens. That was a short reading, but the next reading is all about karma, which is a big topic, so we'll leave that for the next session. We'll end with that the goal of yoga is to realize your true self as Sat-Chit-Ananda, as truth, consciousness, bliss. I'm sure we'll go into realizing that later on in the book, but thank you for listening. Thank you, Nedio, for your heart me earlier. And Nina Beth, thank you for your community fest. Om Namah Shivaya. And thank you, Anazek, for your rose too. Hari Om Tat Sat. Marcy, you were wondering, did I see your question about chi and chakras earlier? Yes. And did you hear my answer? I'll say it again. We can imagine, let's throw in a third concept, something called nadi, which means river. The relationship between chi, or to use the Sanskrit term, prana, chakra and nadi is the same as a road, a car, and a roundabout. For the energy in our body, that which is doing the movement, which is moving along these rivers and roundabouts, that is the prana, or as it's called in Chinese, qi or qi. The roads that it moves along, the rivers, are called nadis, like the spine. And the junction points, where it swirls around, where it concentrates from different directions and then separates, that is called the chakra. Literally means turning point or wheel. It is from where we get the English word cycle, from the ancient Greek chiklos, coming from Sanskrit chakra. It is that which moves around and around, just like a roundabout. The goal is to serve as a junction point for various roads, various nadis, to deliver the cars, all the goods, the prana to everywhere it needs to go in the subtle body. Alright, with that, we will end our live just before, or just after we do a short meditation together. A guided meditation. I'll put up a little title in case people are wondering what we're doing. You know, sometimes I feel like we should have a title for every segment in this live stream, because people join at the funniest times and they just have no context. It's good to have some context. So the context is this is going to be a guided meditation, just a nice simple one. Today we'll do a body scan, a very simple technique to become aware and release some tension in the body. What we do is we put ourselves in a relaxed position. Maybe this looks like sitting with your hands in your lap, in a seat, or with your legs folded. I don't know if my legs will allow me to do that in this chair. There, almost. I can almost fit. Or maybe you just want to lie down or stand. And all of that is a valid position too. Wherever you feel the most stable and contented. In a body scan, we go through the various elements of the body, and we imagine dropping the tension in each spot. Starting with the head, we feel how much energy is often up here. I think we may forget that we can think with the space of our whole body. Our stomach never forgets. We do a lot of thinking in our stomach. As they say, the gut is our second brain. Some people do thinking even lower. Some people think mostly with their heart. They're always pointing to it. I feel like this. I think we should do like this. Some people think according to the back of their hand. We can think with this whole space, but there's a lot of thinking that goes up on here, a lot of analytical thinking, a lot of rationalizing, but maybe a little too much sometimes, so we can become aware of all the excess energy here and begin to flush it down the pipe of our spine. Maybe you can even imagine a toilet flushing. When all your thoughts spiraling and going down your spine. Whenever I feel chills go down my spine, I just imagine that my thoughts are being flushed away. And we can bring our awareness to our face. And we put on such a face for the world that we don't have to. We can dissolve all the tension in our cheeks, in our jaw, in our tongue, in our eyes. Let it all drain too. Let your whole face and the surrounding head be drained of excess energy. And let this draining occur downwards and downwards through the neck. The neck is such a bottleneck for our energy, and a lot of it gets caught up there too. We can drop our shoulders and imagine all of the knots and tendons in our whole neck just straightening out, and a laminar flow flowing down from our head through our neck, across our shoulders, down our forearms. And you can even imagine little lightning bolts shooting out of your fingers as this energy returns to, say, Mother Earth. And we can even make that intention vocal by saying or thinking, I give all my excess energy to Mother Earth. May she do with it what she likes and turn it into something beautiful. Down the head, neck, over the shoulders, shooting out your fingertips. And down the spine also. We feel our chest drop as we exhale. Letting go of the tightness in our upper back. And breathing, and with each breath, feeling our whole torso relax. Letting go of the pressure that we may put on our digestive organs. Unclench the tummy, release the lower back. Let it all wash down, front, back, sides, and inside your torso. And as it gets to your hips, imagine them widening, releasing. This is a funny one. Most people don't even know that between the organs of excretion, that is to say, between the genitive organs and the butt, there is this little muscle that we often hold tightly. It's called one of the locks or gates in yoga. It's used for keeping the energy in our system. There are many gates, like in our throat. When we hold that one tight, no words can come out. We forget how to communicate. And there's a lock or gate in our stomach too. But there's one in our, I forget the name of it, perineum or something, just in front of the base of our spine, that we can be holding on to tension. It's a funny one. But when you feel it release, it's like, wow, how long have I been holding tension there? Our butt also, our glutes, we hold a lot of tension there also. Imagine releasing it. Just letting our butts be nice cushions, full of feathers. Lots of tension held around this area too. And let it drain down your thighs and hamstrings and quads, past your knees and shins and calves. Imagine all the energy flowing back down through your legs, back into the earth, through the ankles, to the balls and soles of your feet, and sprinkling out your toes and between your toes. And we can remind ourselves again of this intention. Let all this excess energy return to Mother Earth. May she use it however she likes to make something beautiful. And that's a body scan. It's very useful physiologically. So thank you for participating with me. I hope that was relaxing for you. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your 7 roses you sent. And Tattvam Asi, thank you for your heart me. Jai Nisargadatta Maharaj. Kelly, you share you could listen to that every day. Well, you're welcome to do a body scan whenever you remember. And the meditation and the readings, they're all clipped and uploaded to my YouTube channel in designated playlists, so you can listen to them if you want. As is the full recording of this live stream, all linked in the link tree in my bio. A similar kind of meditation, not a body scan, but a hierarchical scan of life, can be found on my ASMR YouTube channel, where I guide you from a panic attack back to peace. Instead of scanning through the body, we scan through the layers of life, from the world to the body to our senses and our emotions to our mind to our intellect and our sense of self. We do a scan from the outside in, literally centering us. So that's a meditation that's on my Yamsox ASMR YouTube channel. Lone Wolf, you share you listen most nights as you often miss them in the UK. Well, I will try to do even more earlier lives this week. And thank you, Dr. Jenny, for your trio of roses and tiny. Yippee! And Spicy Mama, thank you for your quintet of roses. Radhe, and hello, Mermander. I hope you and Fish are doing as well as you can. And Melly, thank you for your tiny and quartet of roses. Yahoo! Rahina, thank you for your heart me. Hariom, that's Hybrid Jen, thank you for another rose too. Om Kring Kalikaye Namaha. Thank you, Lone Wolf, for your tiny. And your 10 roses. Hare Krishna. And thank you, Anazek, for your wonderful rose too. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yonah Prachodayat. And Jiva Ji, thank you for your rose. G, but not spelled like the letter G, but J-I. G is an honorific in Sanskrit, so I can just call you G. Thank you. Happy to have you all here, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share this space with you all. We will be ending any second. Before I go, Scouser Sharky, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but you were wondering if I had any book recommendations. Well, I have really been loving the book that we've been reading together, which is The Hidden Power in Humans by Paramahansa Swami Maheshwarananda, The Hidden Power in Humans. And I really liked the book that we finished reading before that, In Love at Ease by Pramukh Swami. That one was written by Yogi Trivedi, who I just got to interview yesterday, which is why I didn't have a live stream yesterday. So if you wanted to learn more about from the author, as I pass many questions on from you in our Sangha, he provided a unique interview just for us. And that's uploaded on my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel too. Could I please repeat my YouTube? Sure, it's very simple. It's the same username as is here, YAMSOX, Yamsox. And then where all the recordings of the lives go, it goes on Yamsox Lives, space LIVES. And that's the first link in the link tree in my bio. And where I do more relaxing stuff, like some spiritual ASMR content, that's Yamsox space ASMR. ASMR spelled ASMR. Also in the link tree in my bio. Where are my socks? Well, one of them's on here. One of my Yamsox is on here, but the other ones, they can be found also in the link tree in my bio. There's a store section for them, or you can get your own Yamsox. Shameless plug. Thank you, Brave Bella, for your quartet of roses too. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And Hybrid Jen, thank you for your heart me. Hare Krishna. Yeah, ever since I was a kid, I never wore socks. I just love my bare feet. And with that, I will be wishing you all a very wonderful rest of your day, whether it's your morning, afternoon, evening, or night. May this live stream be an offering to Sri Radha Krishna, the form of the divine that I see dancing in all of your hearts. Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Shyam Shyam, Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Feline, for your half a dozen roses too. Radhe Radhe. No, I have not gotten my Yam Dana yet, but I expect within the next few days. Alright. May you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaskaram.